Looks like they are loaded up and ready to go, Quax. It's time to kick things off for our first draft between BLG and JDG.
And BLG getting that win over EDG. We talk about in the lower bracket, Mark, how important momentum is if you want to make a deep run. So BLG having a sweep over their most recent opponents could be riding that high going into the series against JDG, who unfortunately did suffer the loss against Top Esports. So might be feeling the opposite emotion going into this best of 5 as we are going through the bans. No one specific role being super heavily targeted, but that Twisted Fate ban going to be levied against HongQ, who has made his name this split on the champion, and just the amount of global presence that it has provided, Mark.
And the respect for JunJia's Nocturne still remains at large. This champion was banned 16 times against JunJia during the regular season. While Nocturne has definitely risen in priority as probably the most feared jungler to let through on the pick and ban table, JunJia in particular helped redefine what that champion could do in the level 1 Raptor invades, being able to cross across the map. Cassiopeia is open, but I want to mark that Top Esports found a way to answer it with exceptionally long range. The Hui and the Ziggs combo from both Cream and Jackie Love made things very difficult. BLG, however, could go for a classic. Bard for on, sets up that long range guarantee engage, or at least fishing for it with a Tempered Fate, and also gives you lane priority in the bottom lane. Oh no! This is usually on me! You've been Nocturne ulted.
Disabled. I have been Nocturne ulted. This is what I get.
Until we get Quax back, JDG, we're thinking about the Vi. It was something that worked really well for JunJia, not only in their previous years against Top Esports for their one and only win, but also something that does give JunJia a lot of reliable lockdown. However, Ezreal locked in for GALA. That opens up the pool for Vampire, whether he wants to go for Enchanters to match against Bard for lane prio, or if he wants to go for roaming engage supports. And with JDG constantly hovering what they want for jungle, ooh, the Naafiri. I'm not gonna lie. Between the Vi and the Wukong, I was definitely thinking more along those lines, but a Naafiri this early on, when Shun has such a proclivity for Poppy, makes me a little cautious about JDG locking in this champion this early on. Seems that Quax is still trying to reconnect, so we'll just have to carry on for the time being. Caitlyn locked down with the Bard. Very powerful laning duo here. Gnar being somewhat hovered, but if BLG slammed this Gnar early, could always be a Vayne lock-in from Xiaoxu. So BLG are going to think twice before taking that gamble. Jace hover, at the very least, could be flexed to jungle Jace if you wanted to. Not really something that we've seen at least until the later stages of a best of 5. So Sion makes a lot more sense, a lot safer, a lot less strong counters. You will still be a reliable front line for the squad. And so now JDG, do they want to look for their guaranteed support pairing with Ezreal? Do they want to look for their strongest counter into Sion while it's showing? And I think the bet for JDG is to guarantee that they can find something that pairs along with the Ezreal well and use the fact that Ezreal can lane by itself relatively safely. And now Vampire can roam around with JunJia on this Naafiri, link up and look for those kill threats. Looks like Quax is still gone. Once we get him back, we will have our favorite Kha'Zix main back with us on the cast here. BLG, think about now bans. You can look at mid and top lane, as it should be pretty set in stone that this Nautilus and Ezreal are not flexible in their roles for this composition. Naafiri is like the one champion that could be put into solo lanes, but we've seen it so many times in jungle that I imagine that is where it's going to go. Good snipe on the Poppy. As we mentioned before, Poppy is a Shun favorite, and Poppy is definitely a favorite of junglers who know how to pilot her to be able to shut down this Naafiri, because anytime she wants to open with the Hound's Pursuit, very easy to just pop the Steadfast Presence and block that from her. Rise, BLG trying to deny some mid lane combos that could help easily guarantee a gank setup or CC combo for Naafiri to be able to pick off an easy reset with her damage. Annie would be the next mid laner that I would look at to try and ban away if you're trying to eliminate combos from Naafiri and HongQ in particular. Akali being respected though by Knight. It's actually the Cassiopeia ban. So if JDG want to lean super into let's try and play around JunJia, Annie mid seems like a totally okay angle to go for, but you probably want to wait until you see what Knight picks and save R5 for HongQ. So might as well try and look for that top lane counter pick first, since you already know what it's going to be. But they say, you know what, let's give Xiaoxu a little bit more information. Let's slam the Annie for HongQ, because we know that is exactly what we want to go with. Quax, are you here? Okay. I can hear Quax in Discord, but you cannot hear him on stream. But BLG need to now round out the composition. They know that it's going to be Annie mid lane. Jarvan's still somehow finding his way available in the draft. And what this means, Quax, with Jarvan available, Annie is a sitting duck. However, Ezreal and Naafiri will have their ways to be able to escape the Cataclysm.
So sorry, everyone. Having tech issues, but I assure you that the picture our illustrious producer Kai has put forth in my place, literally me. So you might as well, this is about as accurate as it gets, but sort of missing out on the draft here. I totally apologize. And we do see the Shen as the final lock in here. So taking stock of the comps we have so far, I do think that a lot of onus is going to be on JunJia with this Naafiri, because you've got the setup from the Annie that you kind of highlighted, Mark, but then on top of that, you've also got the Stand United. So there is a lot of backup and a lot of setup coming through from this aggressive pick. And this is something that we talked about in the pre-show. JunJia is notorious for aggressive early games and being able to kind of spread the wealth around the map. This is the exact kind of champion that facilitates that style, and BLG do have the range and the disengage to get away from it. So it is about the macro, it is about the tracking, and Shun being able to keep stock of where this Naafiri is at all times in the early game, because looking at the scaling, you've got the Viktor, you've got the Caitlyn. Once these champions hit 3 items, it feels like it is going to be heavily in their favor to take over these team fights.
Not necessarily looking like a smash lane on all 3 lanes kind of composition from BLG, since there's so much scaling, and they have given the counter pick over to Xiaoxu with the Shen, who should have a really strong matchup into the Sion. But if BLG are able to weather the storm and, like you said, get to that scaling, they're team fighting. You have to just make sure Naafiri doesn't get those resets, and your front to back looks pretty damn good. Number 1 seed and number 2 seed in the lower bracket, the finals in exile, and it all unfolds with game 1 as we hit the rift.
Dang, those are loud.
I'm low-key missing the Jundong guy, but
me too. You're right.
I'm glad that the fans are able to at least carry on in his spirit for now. We'll see if he's able to make a return if JDG find themselves in another series after this. Nothing out of the ordinary when it comes to Keystones, though. I think for the most part, this is the standard for a lot of these champions here. I want to go back to what you were mentioning, though, Quax, that I think Shun's job for this early game, not necessarily to be super aggressive in lanes, but he needs to keep track of where this Naafiri is, prevent JunJia from being able to find anything early. And I think really the only lane that you can try and look to punish is something like an Annie, because outside of Flash, she's got no real ways to escape a gank.
And to be honest with you, I feel like you could extend that same courtesy over to JunJia a little bit as well. There isn't a ton of kill threat to be had in the top lane. We're more expecting Bin and Xiaoxu to just have a wet noodle fight here in the top lane. But then I feel on bottom lane, you've got the magical journey. You've got plenty of escape tools that On and Viper can use to disengage a fight, at least until JunJia unlocks that ultimate for that follow-up and extra stickiness with the Naafiri. So it's about punishing that Viktor. It's about taking away a scaling threat on BLG's comp and limiting what Knight can do on this pick. This is a guy that has been so good at carrying the BLG banner and taking them to higher highs, has had such a good split, and so, you know, limiting that kind of person would be probably a better way to win some League of Legends, Mark.
I do like this look from On, though. The freedom of Bard allowing to roam at least pressures HongQ, and the fact that suddenly the Bard is missing signals to him, maybe I should back up in lane. And the rest of JDG, even with GALA, back up JunJia to make sure that he can guarantee one of the two crabs, and we'll get a chance to look for an earlier reset on the map.
What? BLG not fighting for every modicum of space in CS and gold that they can find, Mark? What has happened to my team? This is what we talked about. The BLG macro coming through, reining it in, finding that patience, and so Shun goes onto the top side. Xiaoxu's got a big pushing lane here, so it's actually going to be a flag and drag in.
Meanwhile, JunJia attacking mid lane. Knight under fire, though. He just TP'd to lane.
Yeah.
Such a critical timer for HongQ and JunJia to link up and now make Knight less than 25% HP.
And JunJia now can stay on the map. He has no qualms with being able to maybe threaten some of these topside camps. He's going to go hunting for Shun. We'll be able to, at the very least, cancel the back of the Jarvan, so offsets the tempo of the BLG jungler just a little bit. And makes it so he can't actually go for a clean reset off of his camp respawns. And now Shun maybe wanting some revenge.
Both have smite available. Shun immediately tags JunJia with the flag and drag. Decent damage. Naafiri is going to take a wall up here, and Xiaoxu's a little too low to try and bail his jungler out. Knight getting a little bit of love from On, but Vampire matches it. Trying to fight back for priority alongside HongQ. No kills just yet, but a lot of punches are being thrown on both sides.
I love the reaction from Shun as well. We talk about this Naafiri being on a timer to make things happen. As with most lethality champions and as with most assassins, you are stronger in the early to mid game and have to snowball your way to being relevant later on. Good attempted dredge line there from Vampire. But the fact that Shun is just making it harder for JunJia to farm his own camps and limiting his influence on the map, I think is going to go a long way in making it so this Naafiri can't get that snowball off.
Now, I went into this top lane matchup with the assumption that Shen was to have a better time into Sion, but right now, Bin is winning the matchup, so I'm not sure if I just had the incorrect read or if Bin is just playing it much better than Xiaoxu is.
Well, I would agree with you, but Sion works in mysterious ways. I feel like trades you expect this champion to lose, he's capable of just magically winning it, so It definitely is a champion with an interesting set of good matchups and bad matchups. And I agree with you. I was more on the page of Shen being a difficult matchup for the Sion, but Bin is really putting the damage onto Xiaoxu in the lane. But it's outside of the lane where I'm really looking for these picks to transition their leads and make influence happen on the map. You've got global/semi-global ultimates from both top laners, so their ability to get involved in these fights really increases, but for Bin, it's conditional on getting that priority. So the fact that he is able to bully Xiaoxu under the turret and have access to that river to ult down, I think unlocks BLG to play a little bit more aggressively if they want to.
Yeah, it's been a very proactive game from both On and Vampire, both trying to get better advantageous moves on not only assisting their jungler, but also trying to bail out their mid lane or continue assisting the mid lane in their pressure war against each other. On tanking that Annie ulti from HongQ, at least ensures that Knight doesn't have to deal with the burden of it. But with Shen potentially spotted moving towards the top side of the map, JDG have the pressure from this bot lane to look for the first dragon of the game, while Shen is just going to guarantee that he can hit level 6 off of his top side camps. No flashes have been burned so far. Everything continues to be rising in tension in this first game here, Quax.
Should not having level 6, just unlocking it after taking that red buff, so no Cataclysm would have been available for that fight, and then you also saw Knight wanting to go for a reset timer there as this Viktor does pick up the Mercury Tread, so we'll have a easier time in the laning phase against HongQ, who I think has really been willing to put up the damage. Just having Vampire in the back pocket constantly. These roams from the Nautilus has really allowed the mid laner of JDG to play with an extra bout of confidence, and we're seeing that come through in the laning phase. So good adaptation from the build coming out here for Knight. Once those boots get upgraded, it is going to be more difficult for HongQ to lay down that burst as this Annie. But we're still a little bit of a ways from that. You can see role quests are about halfway complete. And until that happens, we do have Grubs coming up in about 10 seconds. JunJia is on this top side, and Shun is just now going for a reset. So JDG should be able to have control of this top side river ahead of the objective if they want to go for it on spawn.
And that True Shot Barrage achieved not only delaying the base of Viper on the bot side, but it also gave vision on where Shun was, having been spotted walking from the fountain. So JDG get to operate with a little bit more information. Vampire clearing out this control ward right below the blue buff. Might step up and at least make Shun a little bit more annoyed. On however, wants to look for the collapse. And Shun immediately uses the flag and drag back to safety. Smites his blue buff, but the rest of JDG, they have the pressure. They're the ones that have control of this bottom side river here instead.
They do, but really it's just a matter of what are you going to be able to do with it. BLG don't have to respond to you. There's no dragon up. There's really nothing of any consequence that BLG are missing out on by just turtling and retreating back into their jungle. JunJia really wants to start getting these kills on the Naafiri, and this has been a much slower paced game than I think JDG actually want. They do have scaling from the Ezreal, but as we talked about in the draft, we favor the scaling of BLG, and so far with no kills and a much slower game, they are exactly where they want to be for this, and it is up to JDG to look for these aggressive plays, but they're just really not panning out at the current moment, Mark.
At the very least, JDG can try and go for 100% objective control, but Shun and the rest of BLG are going to do the smart thing and just trade on the cross map instead. Not trying to contest them where they feel like they would not be advantageous when it comes to skirmishing. BLG taking this first game very patiently and with a lot of discipline and respect to JDG. Now, potentially looking for a dive with Shun on the strong side of the map. Viper having pushed in this lane on separating away. Vampire. He's not level 6, so no death charge is available. Cosmic Binding connects onto GALA, but the trap doesn't connect in time, and that will signal for BLG to call off the dive.
No chain CC available to lock down GALA. Manages to slip away from that trap like you said, Mark. Will dissuade any dive attempts, and meanwhile JunJia is on the top side, so really Shun doesn't have much to accomplish on the map. Hang on, Vampire going in!
Death charge flash! And he uses the flash to buffer the animation, shortening the reaction time effectively for On. First blood found by JDG support.
He hit him with the Nautilus Banana Man combo. First blood over to GALA, and resources given over to the Ezreal. The early game from GALA is a point that we decided to talk about in the pre-show, Mark. And good to see that it is panning out here. The 2v2 for JDG prevails, and GALA is off to an early start, exactly where he wants to be at this point in the game.
Just shy of a 500 effective gold advantage for JDG now at the 11-minute mark, but a lot of that gold advantage is shored up by the deficit from Xiaoxu on the top side. JunJia's going to face check right into Shun. Knight and On can be the first ones to rotate on over, so JunJia is waiting for his time. Xiaoxu can't move just yet with the Stand United, as Bin could try and cancel it. He's moving down in the river. Do they want to look for a fight here? Knight is cut off. Unstoppable Onslaught looking for Vampire. Nice dredge line buffer, but it's right into the wall. Tempered Fate stalls out the combo there, but the Hound's Pursuit reset is coming in for JunJia, and he wants to look for more. This time on to On, and he is going to find the Darkened Dagger, impaling on
the bleed!
The bleed finishes him off, and JDG lead the game with 3 kills.
And it's the extra survivability with the Stand United that gives JunJia the green light to go all in. This is what the jungler of JDG excels at. The engage timers are there, the safety with the shield is there, and JDG win out on the skirmish mark. Now we can see Viper moving toward the mid lane, BLG off the redeploy, trying to get some space made for this dragon, but it feels like JDG are that little bit quicker. Xiaoxu has to be in trouble, will be taken down low, but Bin doesn't want to look for any more.
Skirmishing aside, BLG are still doing their best to keep this gold lead from completely popping off for JDG. Vampire has found Knight, though. He's got the death charge. JunJia's right there at his side, ready to pounce. He has called the pack to be able to dip out a turret aggro, but not enough damage to continue the play. Knight is just going to TP to the top side so he can help collect in on this dive to Xiaoxu and pay himself back. Doesn't die on the side lane and gets his 2nd kill of the game.
Good tanking there from On as well. No one going down there on the side of BLG as they complete the dive, but look at the other side, Mark. I mean, grubs are there for JDG, so they're going to be much quicker at taking the turret. They're going to be on first tower as well as second dragon, so even though BLG do get the kill, they give some gold back over to Knight as this Viktor and accelerate the scaling win con in the mid lane. It feels like they're giving up so much more on the bot side of the map.
JDG now comfortably ahead, around 1,000 gold here at the 13-minute mark. The onus is now on the JDG to try and snowball this lead before BLG are able to fight their way back. As you mentioned, the scaling advantage cannot be understated for BLG. Both Shen and Sion are tanks, but one is not so equal to the other when it comes to all the free HP you're just going to passively collect off of farming in a side lane. Credit to that Soul Furnace passive. So JDG, with 2 dragons on their side, they have done the Drake stacking. They have a way to accelerate the game con. However, this trap laid by On and Shun is going to get scouted out by Vampire. And now Shun might be in trouble. Dreadsline connects, flag and drag, magical journey. They're out of there.
Not going to chase any further. They want to make sure they save these cooldowns on Xiaoxu for the Herald coming up in about a minute. So nothing that can be forced on the JDG top laner to use that Stand United until a potential team fight around that top side. And I love how JDG have set up. We highlighted this as a very big trait of their gameplay, how good they are at creating space, at taking zones of interest around neutral objectives. It is what has gotten them 2 dragons. It is what has gotten them 3 grubs. And it is what is going to potentially get them the Herald. BLG have yet to get an objective. And I feel like they really want this Herald, Mark, because if they want to fight and leverage something over JDG around this 3rd dragon, drawing pressure with Rift Herald could be a way to do that.
It at least guarantees one wave of priority slamming into a turret and forces JDG to respond. I'm definitely with you there. However, Shun is taking a base now, whereas the rest of JDG are setting themselves up on the top side of the map. Solid chunk from Viper with the ace in the hole on the GALA, but he still has flash, he still has barrier. This Ezreal isn't really under any threat, and Knight is still wanting to scale on the top side of the map. A lot of these champions for BLG have their first item spike, but it's really until later in the game that their main carries will want to wait for before they start springing into action.
We talked about the 3 to 4 items being the big breakpoint for the Viktor and the Caitlyn, and we're nowhere near that breakpoint mark. I feel like BLG, with the inferior setup, now they're just walking into JDG, but this is so dangerous!
Shun tanks the dredge line, and JunJia secures the Rift Herald from the Tempered Fate, stalling it out. However, Bin arrives. They find their first kill, and now the unstoppable onslaught. Tries to force the re-engage further. Xiaoxu forced to flash over the wall. JunJia trying to hold the line for now, but Bin is still ready to chase for more. Slowing, using the bear, catches GALA and forces him to arcane shift backwards. No further summoner spells were burned. The Rift Herald is still secured, but BLG have a chance to try and fell this top turret. JunJia has to be careful. Cosmic Binding tags his own dogs. He has no Call of the Pack. Take that back. He has it. He has to wait for the right time to use it. Teleport comes in for Xiaoxu, trying to defend his jungler from falling. This turret is not going to be long for this world. They're using the attack speed from the Demacian standard to guarantee the kill, and BLG find their first turret of game 1.
Good attempt there from Xiaoxu with the Titanic Hydra active to clear the wave and dissuade BLG from going forward to finish off that last little bit of HP, but they do it anyway, so they get something for their efforts despite missing out on the Herald. But I still feel like JDG are the ones that walk away from that fight happy, even though they lose a member and lose a turret at the end of all of that, Mark. They now have the Herald. The thing that BLG could have tried to leverage ahead of this dragon in a little less than a minute and a half is no longer accessible to them. Now all JDG have to do is do what they do best. Set up around the bot side. They've got the Herald. They've got more pressure. And they've got the time in order to do it. You can see GALA jockeying for control around mid. He's going to be assisted by JunJia. And all of JDG are redeploying onto this area of the map.
It's going to take some time for BLG to be able to safely take control, or at least fight for control, of the vision that is being established by JDG in this bot side river. Knight doesn't seem like he is close enough for a second item in time for that third dragon, so it might just have to be BLG conceding this third Drake, as you stated. BLG really want to be able to hit later item spikes. JunJia is now accelerated, having hit Black Cleaver at a fairly good time. Definitely the biggest op that BLG have to deal with. I will say that play on the top side, it shored up the gold lead. So BLG are even, and as long as they are patient and somehow find a way to power up just in time for potentially a Dragon Soul fight 5 minutes from now. That being said, Knight is TPing in.
They're going to be forced to walk through mid.
Bin with the charge. HongQ caught.
They've got HongQ.
Is he dead? Absolutely yes. Knight smites him with the Arcane Storm, and BLG are finding ways to pick off the carries of JDG, completely punishing their lack of setup.
And HongQ has no way of flashing over that wall. BLG get a critical pick and they turn it into a dragon. Soul stacking win con denied for another 5 minutes. Xiaoxu gonna get a consolation prize at best on this top side. A couple of plates over to the Shen, but JunJia now moving in. Knight is in the area, but he has to be careful where he steps. This is a very strong Naafiri, Mark.
Knight has on right behind him. Dredgeline connects onto Knight. Flash is available, but no rocket belt.
Good
Mikhail's, however, cleanses Knight out of the CC, and Shun is ready to re-engage. Cataclysm available, finds the knockup onto 2. JunJia goes for the turn. Cataclysm locks the dogs down. Xiaoxu with the Stand United gives the shield over to JunJia so he can survive. Bin has TP'd into the fray, and he has a massive shield himself. GALA trying to tango with the rest of BLG. Knight under fire, but Bin's got his back with the decimating smash and keeps Xiaoxu right at the door. JunJia ready to sink his fangs into Knight, but cannot look for the killing blow. Has to deal with Bin first. The Dredgeline soaks him up, but Bin just cannot be taken down. This guy is a massive wall. HongQ looks for the killing blow, but Viper is too tanky with his Mercury treads. And now the rest of BLG just have to walk on out. If they don't drop a single kill here, it's pretty damn good for BLG.
BLG get out. JDG will eventually get the turret on the top side, so a little bit of gold goes into their pockets, but they were looking for more, Mark. You have to believe they are disappointed with the results of that play. HongQ was chomping at the bit to get some revenge, but he was alone in that endeavor. Nobody ends up falling as we go back to a replay on what gave BLG their first dragon, their first real neutral objective of the game. GALA with the clutch dodge here, flashes over the wall, and then HongQ has flash, but trapped up, hit by the gravity field. Knight locks him down. and he gets taken out. And now back to live. Critically, we talk about the scaling win condition of the Viktor. He is 1.3k gold ahead of HongQ and set up to hit some of those big item breakpoints. Now that they have bought themselves an extra 5 minutes, that gives so much more breathing room over to Viper and Knight to hit those critical masses.
And while Knight does have the largest gold advantage on his team respectively, I have to give so much credit over to Bin. He has been winning the side lane matchup into Shen. He's had a lot of pressure on the Shen, preventing him from being able to move first, and so Bin always has the chance to look for something proactively. But the past couple of fights, it has been the pressure of Bin sending the engage forward that has forced JDG to react. And we know what happens when JDG are not the ones being proactive with the engages, when they're the ones trying to react and reassess how the hell do they adapt in these scenarios. That's when the fumble happens.
Bin played with a vengeance against EDG. All of BLG did, but it felt like Bin in the laning phase had something to prove, and he absolutely decimated ZDZ in the 1v1s. This game, it hasn't been so much about the lane phase. It hasn't been about the 1v1s. It has been about the impact you can make in the team fights, and Bin has been leading the charge in this game, both literally and metaphorically. Dragon up in a little less than a minute and a half, and we can see that Sion is on the bot side looking to get his team priority ahead of the Dragon to continue denying the soul stacking from JDG.
JunJia spotted trying to take out this control ward in that red quadrant. Decent Baron vision for JDG. And nothing really available for BLG to be able to spot what is going on under the covers of darkness there. As you mentioned, we're a minute away from the 4th dragon spawning on Summoner's Rift. Bin already pushed out the bot side of the map, is already here on mid-wave, ready for either an engage or a follow-up on anything that BLG tries to look for. GALA, not going to be the easiest target to pin down with both Flash and Arcane Shift at the ready. However, HongQ, that's an entirely different story.
I love that Viper is just ulting GALA off of cooldown every single time. It's literally on site for Viper. Like, that is not an exaggeration. Every time he sees GALA and this Caitlyn has ultimate, he's like, you know, he's like full HP. My ultimate does a little bit of damage. I might as well.
It helps not only try and fight for prio, but also gives you information on where the rest of the team is, at least if they're around him. JDG managed to push in this wave, though, into the turret, so JDG now have a chance to sweep out any remaining vision in this bot side river. Now, pay attention to where HongQ and JunJia are leaked up here, because it has to be these two that are collaborating for the pickoff onto a primary target. Vampire, nice dredge buffer, escapes the decimating smash. They're controlling this banana brush from the jungle entrance. On tries to ferry Viper through the bottom side. Bin is now in 3,000 HP. Can Shun get over the wall? Flag and drag, is it available? 2,500 HP. They're gonna look for the turn instead. They don't care about the dragon. Temper Fate, though, locks up one. It's GALA that's hit by the unstoppable walls. Like Cataclysm, because they have a chance to escape. BLG blow up the Ezreal, and now the rest of JDG are at the mercy of Bilibili Gaming. They lose out on Vampire, and with the numbers advantage, BLG can just look for the Baron.
JunJia's half HP. There's really no contest available for JDG. They are just going to march onto the Baron. And JDG, instead of contesting, they're going to go for the mid turret instead. This feels like the next best option that they have. One minion is going to segue to give them that bonus damage onto the objective. BLG pull the trigger. They forsake the dragon, and now Baron is going to be their prize. This puts them on a timer mark. They have to make use of this objective, because with JDG getting that dragon, it puts them on soul points. So these next 3 minutes where you're repping purple, you gotta make the most of them.
I mean, even with the threat of an Ocean Soul on the side of JDG, I'm seeing these setups, and I'm seeing the same hesitation that plagued JDG in their top esports series, and that does not spell good for them.
It doesn't. We can see Vampire is fishing for a pick, but he doesn't really have the Naafiri in the area. GALA is the sacrificial lamb because of that hesitancy. He gets immediately blown up, has no chance to even react, and then a beautiful portal to segue BLG into the fight. And we're back, right back to live.
Back to live. JunJia under fire, blown up by Ben on the Sion. He is a titan that roams Summoner's Rift, and no one has the strength to take him down. Vampire could be next as Shen finds a multi-man knock-up through Xiaoxu and HongQ. Decimating Smash just finds the slow, but it's enough for Knight to follow up. They're diving past 3 towers. They don't give a damn about JDG's defenses. They're wiping them out all the same.
BLG mid-game has come alive, and now the scaling threats are starting to hit their critical breakpoints, Mark. JDG are falling apart at the seams as BLG are rising to the occasion.
Baron buff on their side for another minute and 30 seconds, and already Quax. It is a plus 4,000 Baron power play. Let's take a look at how this fight broke out in the first place.
That's the first part of it because of the replay. Vampire fishing for a dredge line on, wants to be the reset here, or that is JDG's plan at least, is to try and get JunJia a quick little pick, but he gets locked down. On manages to escape, and then look at this. Trap, stun, absolutely nasty. Once again, GALA unable to move. And the sequencing from BLG here, the denial of the ult reset for JunJia, and the fact that Ezreal was not able to really even be a part of that team fight to begin with. You remove the 2 biggest threats of the JDG comp. You move forward in between the turrets too, like you said, Mark. BLG are fearless in this game. Bin is so tanky on this Sion, and they are using that to their advantage. You'll love to see it.
The most terrifying part about this BLG snowball and advantage that is being demonstrated, it is not from a BLG that stomped laning phase and just crushed JDG under their will. It is a BLG that waited, that were patient, that were disciplined, gave JDG objectives, and waited for their turn to play the game before they striked on the map. And now, it looks like JDG have no chance in being able to come back.
Dragon Soul is still a viable win con. All they need is one more in order to get that on. But it feels like, I mean, look at the amount of pressure that BLG have on this bot side. There's no way for JDG to even walk up close to that river the way that Bilibili Gaming are playing. So I think they're going to have no choice but to completely forsake this dragon. And it really just goes to show how punishing playing against BLG can be. They get 1 dragon, Mark, and suddenly your game is completely flipped on its head. That is the 1 neutral objective they have gotten this entire match, and they are making the most of it. It is plaguing JDG, the fact that they don't have soul, and now they're starting to get outscaled.
JunJia has snuck his way into the pit, though. Shun by himself. JDG. Oh, I thought they were going to try to look for a quick pick before the rest of BLG collapsed, but not enough members at the ready. HongQ waiting in that tri-bush.
Ow.
Control ward snuffs out vision.
All right. Eyes on JunJia. Bin is going to spot him out.
I mean, he just looks for the unstoppable onslaught. Immediately, JunJia forced to use the call of the pack. Xiaoxu trying to dissuade On from being able to get into the fight at all. Tempered Fate still at the ready. Magical Journey to be able to rejoin with BLG on the left side. Shun now under fire. Hounds pursuit sent him all the way into the backline. Jun gets the Stand United shield to at least preserve his health bar. But Xiaoxu now on the wrong side. GALA hit by the Tempered Fate. No one can follow up. Knight poking them down with the Death Laser. The Dragon officially leashed. And the Caitlyn trap line is preventing JDG from being able to walk into the river. Both JunJia and GALA have to scale the wall directly into the pit.
But now they're trapped in this pit. They've got to make the most of it. This is exactly where Knight wants to lay down a nasty Arcane Storm.
Knock up on the Viper. Decimating Smash zones him off for now. On under fire. Xiaoxu into the backline, but Knight is peppering away at GALA. 1800. JunJia secures the Ocean Soul. Is it enough for JDG to turn around this fight? Knight still has many death flavors to fire off into JDG's forces, but BLG losing out on their general, no longer having a jungle on their side. They have to retreat, and just like that, JDG see a glimpse of hope here in game 1.
They absolutely do, and they do it by playing with patience, Mark. We talked about this in the pre-show. They play the fight slow. They look for their opportunity. They scale the wall over onto the Dragon Pit, and they find their opening from there. Going into the replay, you can see Knight is completely cut off from the fight. Viper gets focused down, and it's just whittling away at this dragon. BLG are trying to play to disrupt as many members of JDG as possible, but they're tanky. They're able to sustain through the fight. Soul gets acquired here. JunJia wins out on the smite fight. Not much more comes of it, but crucially, like you said, Soul acquired a brief glimpse of hope given over to Jindong Gaming to come back from this game, despite being 5,000 gold down, as now Baron is up, and all of BLG have taken control of this topside river.
We'll see how much it can protect the JDG in these extended fights. If someone just gets blown up, Ocean Soul not going to do you any favors there. BLG have taken control of this bottom red side quadrant once again. It is completely littered with vision, and JDG have to send one brave soul to try and scout. JunJia goes over the wall. Call of the Pack at least saves him for now. Stand United as a panic ulti just to make sure that JunJia doesn't die. BLG are going to be able to time that and try and use that to great effect in splitting the map.
All right, it is level 3, so the cooldown is reduced a good amount. Xiaoxu will have that ultimate back up likely by the time a future fight transpires, but it does limit JDG's ability to be more aggressive, specifically JunJia on that Naafiri, not going to be able to play nearly as far up, and like you said, BLG wanting to try and make use of that timer are going to reclaim some control of this topside river, and JDG, without the Stand United shield, can't really do much to argue back.
Base is being taken by GALA here. Curious if he's sitting on a power spike. It's just a Last Whisper, not a full Last Whisper completed item. Whether it was going to be the Serelda's Grudge here remains to be seen, as JDG trying to fight for reclaiming vision control on this top side of the map. There's an Elder Dragon that will spawn in 3 minutes time. Until then, Baron is the objective to play for, and BLG, while comfortable with the gold advantage, have to respect JDG now being the ones pushed against the wall to try and something bold like this.
All right, no Stand United is available. Still, it is on cooldown, but JDG want to pull the trigger here.
6,000 HP on the Baron already. 4,000 HP. Temper Fate is going to stall the Baron out. How do they want to play this fight out? Dredgeline snacks right into the middle! Viper's caught, but he flashes away just in time. Cataclysm holds the front door. HongQ zoned out by Knight. He's just ripping apart the
Viper's free hitting!
And Viper, it puts the dogs back into the pound! GALA caught by the knockup, and Knight takes his golden left hand and smashes JD down to pieces! BLG don't care about the Baron. They can look for the game 1 win.
And they don't care about your Ocean Soul. JDG are going to come up dry as a desert in that fight. No kills over to them. BLG 5-4, and it's just Xiaoxu alive as they barrel down into the mid lane.
BLG in a final split 1 rematch open up the series with a look that is unlike anything that BLG has done in these playoff scenarios. It's not a win lane, win game. It is a patient, rewarded by discipline, as JunJia wants to make a last stand here onto the backline. Viper is felled by JunJia, but BLG still have Knight in the backline to be able to make this victory a guarantee. On is going to style on them, hit him with the Cosmic Binding. Xiaoxu trying to do what he can. Shen is critically low. Wait a minute, Knight is too low on mana. And JDG have prevented the end of game 1.
JDG, hold the line for now. It is still double inhibitor here for BLG, so a lot of minions flooding into the base of Jindong Gaming, but the Titanic, boy, that is satisfying to clear all of the minions as we go back to the replay on the fight that tipped the scales in favor of BLG. HongQ looking for a good angle on with the ultimate, and then a crushed
The
dredge
Baron!
line. The Baron canceled the ult! That is absolutely tragic. JunJia gets denied, gets taken down, and all this while, we talk about the 4-item Caitlyn, but it's no joke. The damage being laid out here by Viper and the safety that the BLG frontline is providing him is immaculate, as now we're back to live. Elder is up in 15. It is a last stand here for JDG. It is do or die for them in game number 1.
Elder Dragon would be the ultimate Hail Mary play for JDG to reverse all the wrongs that have been done to them. It is the one saving grace. But BLG recognize there are 2 inhibitors gone. There are no Nexus turrets. Just end the freaking game. Xiaoxu, stunned up by the Tempered Fate, cannot escape this one. And JDG are now trying to get the recalls off because they have to protect the open Nexus.
And here we go, 4v5.
Flag and drag round into HongQ, and they're just gonna fall one after another like ants. The rest of BLG wipe away any chances for JDG to make a miracle comeback, and BLG will lead the series 1-0.
Well, this hype around Elder, but BLG, they play the macro game. They say, let's just go for the end. And you can't see my cam right now. I'm still a dog.